Welcome to Sisters Connect, a podcast that celebrates the amazing sister friends that I admire and who keep me inspired. I'm your host, Kimberly Sumter.
Hey there, I am Marissa, the host of Intentionally Be You podcast, and today I am so thrilled to shine a spotlight on the incredible Sisters Connect podcast. This platform has become a beacon for women, providing a space to share stories, celebrate achievements, and explore avenues for personal growth. Thanks to Sisters Connect, women are finding seats at tables they might never have accessed otherwise. Kimberly Sumter, your accomplishments are truly inspiring. Thank you for creating a platform where women can discover strength in unexpected places and shine brightly. It's been an honor to find empowerment and support through your podcast. Girl, keep illuminating paths and uplifting voices.
Thank you so much, Marissa. I so appreciate that. And thank you for joining me for episode number 67 of the Sisters Connect podcast. In today's episode, I'll be talking to Yvonne Thevenot. She's the founder of STEM Kids NYC, and she has a remarkable journey that took her from Wall Street to the classroom. Now, after surviving breast cancer and navigating a divorce, Yvonne made a bold pivot. She left her high-powered corporate career to pursue her true passion, which was to empower the next generation through STEM education. So from starting her own nonprofit organization to transforming how underserved children engage with science and technology, Yvonne's story is one of resilience and purpose. Now, it's time to connect. It is so exciting to have an opportunity to get to speak to you today. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
People talk about pivots all the time, but you really had a major pivot in your life. You made a decision to leave corporate America to go into education and to enter into the field of STEM. What is the origin story around that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So speaking of pivots, one of the pivots I did before I left corporate America was I had a couple of life-changing events. And one of them happened to be being diagnosed with breast cancer, as well as going through a divorce at the same time. And what I needed to do after coming through on the other side of both of those life-changing events was really take an account of where I wanted to be in my life, what was happening. Did I want to go back to corporate America and work 50 to 60 hours a week? Or just what type of peace of mind did I want to have in my life? And it really kind of centered around there. I had to do some soul searching. After being on medical leave from chemotherapy, it gave me time to really think and take stock of how did I get here and where do I want to go from here? And it really came to the point of wanting peace in my life initially. And going back to Wall Street wasn't going to give me that peace that I was needing. And as a mother of a young son at the time, he was 7, I just felt that I wanted to do a little bit more to be integrated into his life, given that he was now coming from, he had 2 different homes. Parents were splitting up. So it really came down to what was my heart leading me to. And at the time, it was leading towards love. You know, from when you're getting a divorce, love is kind of not in the equation. It's not center in your life. At least it wasn't for me. And I wanted to be drawn towards love. And so I thought about all the times I had volunteered at my son's school. And I thought about the joy I had of being in the space, how it was like a great paid time off day for me. And I said, I want to do something in the classroom. And I remember when I was working for JP Morgan and I had taken that vacation day off, my son was actually in preschool. And I just remember the waist hugs I would get from my son and his peers. And I'm like, that's the love that I want. I want to have that every day. So that honestly, that was what drew me to education. And so I said, okay, I'm coming from a corporate background. What do I have to do? And for me, family is like steeped in education. It was like, well, you have to go back and get that degree that gives you the credibility you need for education. So that's when I decided to leave, scared. I did it because I talked to my pastor about it. And he was like, well, you've gone through a lot already. And he's like, just make sure you've got the money. And I hadn't even thought about that. I'm like, I have savings. I can't actually leave without feeling disjointed because I have my savings. And I said, okay, I'm doing it.
Wow. That whole response was so loaded because I have so many thoughts in my mind around it. First of all, I am so thankful that you made it through your journey of breast cancer and just going through that all by itself in a time in your life where I know you needed support more than anything, and for you to be dissolving your marriage, that had to be difficult. Also, I love the fact that you did it scared. It feels like you did so many things right in the face of something and so many things that were so wrong. So your background, the women in your life, the men in your life, what were the lessons that you learned from them in order for you to be so grounded?
Well, it starts with my father. My father raised my brother and me as a single parent. And he really instilled in me that he would tell me all the time on his way, taking me to school, that he's like, baby girl, you can do anything that you want to be. You've got to learn how to play the game and you have to master it. So when you're a little girl, you have no idea what that means. But if you're hearing it every day, as an adult, I do know what it means. Like, I believed my dad when he told me I can do anything that I want to be. He is the one that actually introduced me to STEM in the first place. I had declared when I was in first grade that I wanted to be a doctor. My first grade teacher, Mrs. Lugers, who actually came to my college graduation as a surprise, told my dad, wrote a note home and said, Bonnie, that's my nickname, wants to be a doctor. My dad was the type of doctor, he went big. It's like you go big or go home. So he said, my baby wants to be a doctor. He bought a microscope, he bought slides, he started getting me science kits, everything that I could have at home. And so that's where it started. And I loved exploration. Our backyard, I grew up in Ohio, so we had a yard. Backyard was the lab. I loved bugs. I would just be centered in that. When I was 11, he introduced me to computer science because my dad came from that world. And so I learned how to code when I was 11. So I guess I'm steeped in STEM from the very beginning. Then I had a father who didn't create these gender worlds in our home, told me I can do anything. So I believed him. So I went to undergraduate school as a computer science degree. I went in Ohio. I was the only Black woman in my department. The only Black person in my department, and one of 4 women in our computer science department. So talk about chilly. And I went to a predominantly white school. So it was quite the chilly atmosphere. And I'm thankful that I had the grounding that I had because I took computer science classes in high school. My dad made sure that in summer programs, I always had access to learning how to code. So I already had those things. So I could go in charged up in this kind of chilly world. It was challenging. You do feel alone. So I got through it. So fast forward to now, I'm in education and I went to this University of Southern California to get my first master's. And while I was in that space doing my student teaching, I pretty much found out that I did not want to be that classroom teacher in urban schools. Reason being is I happened to be in New York schools and I just saw how stressed the teachers were during state testing time. And I also saw how the method of instruction in public schools was not where I felt it would be an adequate type of education for kids. And I would most likely be fired because I wouldn't follow the protocol, if you will, of how it needs to be taught, like teaching to the test. And it just wasn't for me because that's not how I learned in school. So I said, I may have to carve my own path. I'm going to have to find a nonprofit that will let me combine my education degree with my computer science background. I actually am going to teach kids how to code because one of the classes I took when I was getting my master's was I read about an organization that had started to do an after-school program, a coding after-school program, and how the statistics of the lack of these types of programs in Black and brown communities. I was in a bubble, corporate America, I'm like, I had no idea. I just thought, okay, I learned how to code. This is what we're doing. No. So after reading that article, and then after observing and looking into what my son's curriculum was, I'm like, oh my God. So I knew right then and there I needed to put those two together. It's like I had 2 other businesses before in the Silicon Valley. So it wasn't like I am not immune to starting a company, but it didn't occur to me. First, it occurred to me like, let me go find a nonprofit that actually will let me do these things. And as soon as I put that out there, I was at church, and in the church bulletin, there was an affiliate program of the church, which is a sports-based program. And in there they were looking for an after-school coordinator. And so that Monday, I left my student teaching area. After I'm done student teaching, I drove to the nonprofit in Harlem that my church is affiliated with, and just, went to the director and said, "Hi, my name's Yvonne Thevenot. I saw this in our church bulletin. I am the person for the job." He looked at me as if I was like, "Who is this person?" But I got the job. The board, unanimously approved me. I actually asked them, "I'll come on board if you grant me the allowances to actually start a STEM-based program, or at least have STEM be centered in this after-school program." They did. So that's where I got my start, in the northernmost part of Harlem, starting this, STEM-based program that also had other extracurricular activities for the students, from healthy eating. The center had a commercial kitchen that was amazing. So we used that commercial kitchen where I taught the students how to make very healthy snacks, and we did a whole bunch of stuff. So after a year and a half, I said, this is a great model. And I try to talk to the director of having that model with the organization's brand be going into schools, because it just worked. We combined sports and education, and then centered in STEM. He wasn't interested. So I said, well, I don't have to wait, because I know how to start a business. I know this already. So that's where STEM Kids NYC was born. It just like, okay, I'll do this. I had already, left a 6-figure job. It's like, I'm used to now going out and leaping like a base jumper without, with a net, but leaping with faith, really. So that's really where STEM Kids NYC was started. I had gone to vacation after running a summer program at this nonprofit, at this center, went on vacation with my son and me. We went to Martha's Vineyard, and we stayed at a horse farm. It was an equestrian program for those who are autistic. And that in the summertime, school was not around, so she opened up her home and her space for guests. So my son and I stayed there, and her place was beautiful. And just after talking, because it was an Airbnb, so it's like you talk to the host, and she goes, my foundation paid for all of this. I go, what? Tell me more. We stayed in her beautiful home. She's got all this land, and she started talking to me about, she set up a nonprofit, set up a foundation, raised money, and paid for the horses, the farm, the house. And I said, this is what I need to do. Literally the next day, when my son was sleeping, before we started our day, I'm like, okay, let me try to figure out a name. So I checked on the names, something related to something fun. STEM Kids NYC was available. I went directly to the IRS.gov and got my tax ID right then and there. August 26, 2015.
Wow. And here we are 10 years later. And I also want to know about the children who are actually taking advantage of the program that you've created.
So I started the Jersey part like almost immediately. And the reason being is I live in Jersey, and my son was going to school in Jersey. And as I shared before, his school didn't have a STEM program. So I actually went to the head of school. It's in Hoboken. Went to the head of school and said, by the way, I've started my own company now teaching STEM programming, and I would love to talk to you about considering me teaching in the program, because I noticed that there's no after-school program related to STEM. You have everything else, but not STEM. They said, there happens to be an opening during the day if you have time, because our Spanish teacher is on medical leave, and all the students are doing in the middle school, it's a study period, and that just doesn't work for them. Do you mind teaching 2 periods in the middle of the day? So that's really where it got started. Me just opening my mouth and wanting to fill a need that I wanted my child to have. And lo and behold, STEM Kids New Jersey was started right then and there. And it was kind of like cross fingers. My son was in middle school, 7th grade at the time. Now I'm the teacher. So it's either going to make or break him, because his mom is the teacher of this class.
Right.
But I taught them app development, and it was amazing. They're like, your mom is so cool, telling my son this. So I'm like, thank you, God. Because, it's like, it could work or not work. So it did work. That was the first start. And then There was a neighbor of mine who I had met. He had 2 children, and I saw him struggling with his kids in our park where one of his children was sick. And I said, do you need some help? I live right across the street. I'll bring you some things. That person happened now then start to be on my board as a board member of my company. We just foster that relationship. He then introduced me to the Edgewater Library and said, they just got this grant, they've got 3D printing and so on, and they're looking for someone to teach. So we introduced it. And so now STEM Kids New Jersey is now not only in Hoboken, but now we're doing this thing in the Edgewater Library. And then that just kind of transferred over to Lyndhurst Library, also gave us a call after hearing about the Edgewater, because they were like, you've got to, use this company. And so just word got out. So we were in my son's school, even after he went to high school. We stayed literally for 5 years up until COVID happened. So we had been in Jersey for a long while, growing the New York office too, because we were in schools in New York City as well.
It seems like this was destined to be the path that you were supposed to be on, because everything felt like it dropped into place. Everything from every conversation, every person that you met. What were some of the challenges you had in doing this?
I will say, and I don't want to seem flippant, but it wasn't a challenge initially. And my mindset was I had grown up in a world where I was the only Black person anyway in computer science. So my armor was already developed by the time I became an adult. I just knew I was exploring into a territory that only a few people were going to be in. I started my career as a computer scientist. I worked for major corporations as a computer scientist. I'm still the only one, or nearly the only one. I always went to predominantly white schools. My dad worked hard to put my brother and me through private school. So I just had that shield already. I knew how to play those games and how to code switch, and just that's just how it happened. So I didn't, and then what I think shielded me from any fear or worry or even dealing with a challenge, if there was one, is because I love to teach. Teaching was my thing. I was the teacher. I was teacher number 1. And I loved to see the eyes wide. Like I told you, the waist hugs. Middle school, they're not going to give me a waist hug, but they were like, oh my God, this is so cool. That was, to me, the positive affirmations that my heart needed. Seriously. And so I went at it there was just no fear. I am a woman of faith. I knew that I could not fail. I had always been successful. So I'm like, this is going to be that way too. And because things fell into place so easily, that was kind of affirmation that I was on the right path. Because if I wasn't, then the blessings would not have come that way. So not even a year into the company's time, we were spotted by NBC. There used to be a show called Give. We were on that show, even way back then, nearly not even a year yet. And so then fast forward into COVID, when schools closed and everybody sheltered in place, that's when I really got afraid, because our business is an in-person business. The business was in schools. So I looked at myself. It was literally in the mid-March of 2020 when schools started to shut down in New York City. That's where all of our business was, bread and butter. We had one school, which was the school in Hoboken in New Jersey. So I really had to take stock of what needed to happen. And what I did was we did do a huge pivot. The day New York City announced that they were closing their schools was when I reached out to my team and I just said, I'm going to share something with you. Let me know if you're in or out. We're going to teach coding online. I have experience in doing it. Because at USC, I chose USC for master's program because it was like a name brand, but they had an entire master's of education degree online. And so I was already used to being in class, live classes being taught online. So I simply said I was going to train my teachers on how to facilitate online based on the great experience I had with learning online. So Jersey schools closed. That week, while those teachers in those schools were getting prepared to teach online, I was also preparing my teachers for teaching online. We then that week sent out to all of our schools, giving them a marketing email saying, we can teach coding online to your students during the day for a period. And everyone responded. We had 30 classes literally from March to end of June, 30 classes a week. We were humping all week. We were more busy than we were just teaching after school, because some are like, can you teach at this time during the day? It was amazing. And then the summer of 2020, same thing. We had about average 30 classes a week. We had our own online summer camp, and then other organizations are like, can you teach this? It was just amazing. And
That's incredible.
Like, wow. So we didn't skip a beat. We did not skip a beat. We went over that hump. It was hybrid. We also had some hybrid, some online. And then when everything shifted to totally in person, we did as well. But in between that time, while that was happening, 2 major donations came. One, Verizon gave us a 2-year grant that allowed us to expand even further into New York, specifically in Title I schools and public housing areas. They wanted us to teach in NYCHA community centers. Wow. So we expanded significantly. In addition, we had a private donor, a hedge fund manager, very successful, approached us in 2020 and was doing some vetting and gave us a sizable donation. And all I can say is it was a blessing to have that, because that told me people are watching, and what we're offering, this service offering that we're doing with kids that are of all walks of life, but predominant base are students who are in marginalized communities, where STEM is not a part of their community. It's not really a part of their schools. And when they look out in their neighborhood, their lens does not see scientists. Their lens sees other things. And so my social justice issue, my social justice calling, and my calling in life is to ensure that my company is providing these opportunities for those students who might be at risk for being sucked up into the carceral system. I'm doing all that I can to give them a positive STEM identity, that their eyes are wide, smiles are wide when they're learning how to code. They're scientists and they're putting the lab coats on, because we buy lab coats even for our little one, and goggles so they can assume the identity of being a scientist, where we're doing science experiments. We call them mathematicians and engineers when we're talking to them in school. That is all set up and by design to give them the impetus that they can. And no shade to basketball or football. I'm all about the ampersand. You can be a coder and you can also play basketball. And by the way, I always tell my students, especially middle school, statisticians, last time I checked, make a lot of money in the NBA. They do. You don't have to be on the court. There's so much you can do. So we have those environments in our program. So another life-changing event happened whereby during the COVID era, I started to get really sick. I had a lung disease, but it was maintained pretty powerfully. After COVID, I got a disease called RSV, which is like a childhood disease. And after I got that, I ended up being totally dependent on oxygen. Once the outside opened up again, I was advised by my doctors not to be inside of classrooms. This was before the vaccines came, for fear of getting sick, especially during COVID, and not having, the immune system to fight off. So I stayed inside. I appointed my right-hand person, but I pretty much had to stay inside and have Zoom calls, Zoom meetings, training to my home was my command central. And it was different to not be in the classroom with my kids.
And that's your joy too. You love the interaction with the children. Being able to pivot and to go online was a really great thing. I think for you too, you set such a great foundation for your business when the life challenge came up for you as far as your health was concerned, that you were able to still continue and make another pivot. What does that feel like when you do see that big aha moment with the children, or if someone comes back to you, or a child or a parent comes back to you and they have so much gratitude about the opportunity that STEM Kids NYC has presented? What does that feel like? And tell me about some of the children who have taken, or young people, I should say, who have been a part of this amazing organization.
Absolutely. One of my students who started with us when he was 4 years old, and I got this email from a mom that was like, my son's 4 and he loves to build cardboard. He's really talented. And I know that your age starts at 5, but I was wondering if you would consider. And so I sent a note back, and I never like to turn anybody away. And every child is different, because I learned how to read when I was 3. So I know, I don't kind of put a limit on people's developmental levels. I said, Mom, I'll tell you what, if you are willing, and so I want to make sure that he's set up for success too, can you take off 2 vacation days, half days? 2 in a row, so that if I need to call you because he's done by 12, you don't have to rush out of work. You're already ready. And we'll just see what happens day one. So he was the youngest, but he held his own. That was 2016. Last week, we had a Jersey spring break in our Jersey City office, and his baby sister was in our program. He's now about to go to high school. And last year, he volunteered in our weekend programs. So we took a photo because I had not seen him. Usually when he came to weekend programs, again, my doctors are like, you got to stay away still. I'm going to interject this for you. 2023, my lungs had gone so bad that I was still dependent on oxygen, but I could barely walk 5 steps without catching my breath. So I ended up getting a lung transplant. I got a lung transplant October of 2023. That in and of itself was like a miracle because I had gone into respiratory failure September of 23. And a week later, I got new lungs because I went to the top of the list.
Wow.
I didn't have to wait. So my transplant doctors are like, it's too soon for you to still go in to, be around kids. So my team handled the Jersey City office as well as New York, and I stayed back. But my 8th grader, who started when he was 4, would volunteer in our weekend programs. So I had not seen him in person until last week. And I was like, but last year, his mom was like, Miss T, they call me Miss T. Miss T, I just want to let you know that he is the captain of his robotics team. They're going to the state championships. And I want to thank you. I was just like, yes. And he wants to be an engineer. I started STEM pre-K in 2017 off of a whim of, what if we were to teach young kids, younger than 5, introduce them to science and hands-on engineering? What would that look like? So I started STEM pre-K program in Harlem. A community-based organization gave us a space for free for Friday mornings. My first 2 students were girls. I said 4 and up. Parents sent their 2 babies, 2 little girls, 2 years and 7 months.
Oh, wow.
It's like, this is the what if I was asking for. Language development is still happening when you're 2 years and 7 months. You are not talking to me, even watching, that you're not saying anything. So I was literally teaching and talking to myself, but I was giving them talking to them in science and engineering conversations. I called it having a conversation in STEM. So instead of building, we're engineering a castle. We are just doing those things. One of my first students, that was 2017. This year, the mom reached out to me and said, I just want to thank you. Em is having a 10-year birthday party, and she wants to have it where she got started in STEM. I just want to let you know she wants to be a scientist, and I want to thank you for it. And she CC'd the current director of the CBO that initially gave us free space. They're now our client, just like that. So another one is, young man started when he was going to middle school. He came every summer. And now his mom last year sent me an email saying, I just want you to know that he's going to be in mechanical engineering. So there's these stories and they go on and on. I'm thankful that parents are still keeping track, even if they age out, if you will. Even though we go to high school, they have other things going on. So I'm happy that, one, I still have those relationships with those parents. My lifelong dream is to, when I'm in my 90s, get invitations to, defending their PhD because they just decided to find a cure for cancer, and they're paying homage to where they got their start, and I'm in the audience. Or they are now discovered life on Mars and now have a company that's now propelling things beyond what Elon Musk is doing and getting people to Mars, that I'm being invited to those celebratory events.
I know that must be an incredible feeling, that your heart must be filled and you must feel like, man, I did good. I'm mind blown. So, I'm smiling the whole time that you're talking because this story is really, truly incredible. If you had an opportunity to ask, the average person can support you or the larger companies could support you. What is it that you need in order to build this out even bigger, if that's even your dream?
There definitely is. The initial vision was to have our own physical spaces, but I would always get emails of people interested in do you have a weekend program? Do you have an after-school program? And I knew that their children went to the schools, there was no opportunity for them. Columbia has granted us spaces where we had weekend programs, but after last year's protest, they were not allowing anybody to be on campus unless they were students. So that kind of put the kibosh on things. And in Jersey, we never had that mojo going like that, where we had a space to do weekend programs. So the generous donor that gave us sizable donation, I was able to purchase a commercial condo in Jersey City, and thankful, for that, was able to kind of use some of that donation money to do that, as well as open up a space in Harlem to have those two physical spaces. So the idea is, where we are in Jersey City, it's available to families from downtown and in the area where we are, which is Bergen, Lafayette, Greenville, etc. Now, you asked about challenges before. We do have a challenge now. This is for the first time where I literally stay up at night wondering, how do we get the word out properly? And also, how do we get some of the busy families time, because their kids are already scheduled in events. So now we're coming in trying to say, spend an hour with us when they're already busy. That's the challenge now, is getting the word out, getting the right marketing out there, developing the relationships that's needed with families as well as schools and other community-based organizations, so that we can start having our programs inside of our spaces. So the way that companies could certainly support is really tapping into where they want to put their dollars, if you will. It's almost putting your dollars into the future. Do you care about kids, and getting those 21st century skills? And if so, consider supporting companies like ours, who we do this year round. We don't do it just in special occasions. We literally are 365 days a year, with the exception of certain holidays. We're in business to devote our time to teaching students hands-on STEM activities and lessons. So that's where companies could come in, and where I would love to develop partnerships with other community-based organizations, as well as organizations that work with our kids, the age group, but we're in a sense partners. So they teach tennis, we teach STEM, and we're sharing what each other does by supporting each other. That's really the types of alliances that I'm looking for sure, both in the New York area, but most assuredly in the Jersey City, Hoboken area for sure, so that we're all supporting our students and coalesce together properly.
You truly are the definition of resilience. And I know that your son has to be so proud of you. He has to be so proud of you. I'm really a little bit awestruck from your story, Yvonne. I am. And it really inspires me, and it really gives me pause, and it makes me think about all the things that I've been wanting to achieve in my own life, and taking a pause, not because of challenges, but really because of my own mindset. So you've broken that for me today, to really think outside of myself and to really push forward in my own mission and the things that are important to me. So I want to thank you so much for that. How can people reach out if they are hearing this and they want to support you in any way? How do they get in contact with you?
Absolutely. Our website is stemkidsnyc.org. We also are on social media. So we on social media and Instagram. I don't know how much people are using X anymore, but we still have our handle active, and we're on Facebook. And for those who live in New Jersey, they could search for STEM Kids New Jersey. We have those separate handles where, because we have different activities, appropriately we're marketing to our families in New Jersey. For those who are in New York City, we have STEM Kids NYC, where you could search in those appropriate handles. But the website itself is stemkidsnyc.org. We have a contact us button, so if you want to speak directly, just send us a contact us message. It goes directly to my email, and I respond accordingly, and promptly, if you will. What I would love for those who have children themselves, for those who have neighbors who have children, relatives who have children, I would just respectfully ask, give us a try. Come to an event, take a lesson. We literally meet students where they are. We teach because we're educators, but centered in a few of the STEM strands. So I pretty much take grad students who are getting their master's in computer science or engineering, etc. It's in a sense they take their mastery and I show them how to teach that to different levels. So I used my Master's of Education to help guide others so that they can deliver and be successful. We teach robotics, we teach how to make robots themselves, everything that we give our students the opportunity to build, such as a balloon-powered car or a motor-powered car where we're introducing circuitry to them, they get to take that home. So we start with raw materials. And that's really where sponsorship comes in, because we go through so much consumable materials because the intention is for them to understand how things work. So they're putting the wires with the motor, building the chassis of the car themselves. They learn how things are made, but they take that home with them. So many parents tell us, my daughter has these things lined up on her dresser, the robot that she made, the car that she made. Because what this does for kids, they are so proud of what they made. So it has to go home. The intention is psychologically, if they see and are reminded of what they made, it will be a reminder that they can. And that's the whole idea. And parents who don't think they have a bone in their body around STEM can probably feel proud that they produced this genius. So it must have come from them anyway. You know, they're proud and they get to brag. This is what my daughter made in class. It's bragging rights. And so we intend to continue to instill STEM at home in that manner. But we meet our students where they are, culturally, developmental-wise, so that everybody has the opportunity to uncover what is already innately in them. And we just have the talent to teach in ways to bring it out so that they can see as well.
Love it. One thing that we didn't touch on is the cost.
For one of our weekend programs that is roughly an hour, a little over an hour, it's $55. It's very modest. It allows me to take care of those consumable materials per child, as well as pay my instructors, because I pay them for the planning of the lesson and the implementation of the lesson for sure. And then, some time where we debrief afterwards. So it covers those costs per child. It's kind of multiplied by if they come to a camp, but I try to price it so that it's affordable, but we also have sliding scale and scholarship applications for those students. We do not turn anyone away. So we provide an avenue for all families of various economic levels, pre-K through 12th grade.
Amazing. Yvonne, I want to say this has been such an amazing conversation, so inspirational. You are an amazing, amazing woman. I will definitely be volunteering or providing something to support what you are doing. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Hey sis, thank you so much for being a part of today's conversation. If you want to get more information on today's guest or our previous guests, make sure you visit our website at sistersconnect.com. Until next time, see you soon.